Hello everyone, this is Rajiv back here. In our previous video, we have already discussed about the biosynthesis of T3 and T4, that is triiodothyronine and thyroxine by the follicular cells of the thyroid gland on being stimulated by the pituitary via the thyroid stimulating hormone. Now, the pituitary was stimulated by the hypothalamus because somehow the hypothalamus came to know that a system's metabolic rate has gone down. Now a very simple question arises that how at the first place the hypothalamus came to know that the system's metabolic rate has gone down. For that you need to analyze one more thing, and that thing is a cell, which is the fundamental unit of any living system, performs metabolic activities 24 into 7. Now this metabolic activity requires energy, and we have got ATP in the form of energy currency. Now in order to acquire energy from the ATP, we need to hydrolyze it, and after hydrolyzing the ATP, the energy that we harness is not 100% utilized for the metabolic processes. That is, amount of energy is escaped from the total energy in the form of heat energy, and that escaped heat energy helps to maintain our body's temperature. Now hypothalamus does lots of functions, but one of the very prominent function that it does, that it helps checking the body's temperature and helps regulating the same at the same time. That is, hypothalamus acts as a thermostat of our body. Now whenever the metabolism is very smooth in our living system, obviously the temperature would be well regulated, because for any sort of metabolic activity we require energy, and while harnessing energy, a proportion of energy is escaped in the form of heat energy, and that heat energy will help maintaining our body's temperature. So as long as our body's temperature is regulated, the hypothalamus get to know that our body is performing the metabolism in a very efficient manner. But somehow if the temperature gets to go down, if somehow the temperature moves down, then hypothalamus, being the thermostat, it monitors it, it detects it. Once detected, the hypothalamus now came to know that yes, the temperature has gone down, which directly implies that the metabolic rate has gone down, because if the metabolic rate would have been in a regulated manner, then definitely the ATP molecules have been utilized, and during the utilization of the ATP molecule, a proportion of energy will always escape in the form of heat energy, and the temperature would have been regulated. But since it is not the case, therefore the hypothalamus in this manner came to know that our body's metabolic rate has gone down, and it now needs to do something or the other to bring back the metabolic rate into a normal state. Not only that, but also the hypothalamus detects our posture and accordingly tries to adjust the rate of metabolism of our body. Say for example, if I am in a running posture, then the hypothalamus detects my posture and accordingly adjusts the metabolic rate in such a way that it can support the running activity of mine. Or in other words, say for example, if I am in a sleeping state, then the metabolic rate needs not to be that high as compared to the running posture of mine. So therefore the hypothalamus decreases the metabolic rate in such a way that it suits my position. So in this very kind of magical ways, the hypothalamus get to know that what should be the actual metabolic rate of our system, and thereby with the help of pituitary thyroid axis, it helps regulating our metabolic activity. So since we came to know that how does the hypothalamus detects an increase or decrease in the metabolic rate of the living system, it's high time we should go for the biosynthesis, transport and functions of the thyroid hormones. Talking about the biosynthesis, we have already covered. Now in this module we will talk about the transportation of thyroid hormones and the functions of thyroid hormones. So before moving into the details of our discussion, let me give you some hints and glimpses of what actually we are going to discuss. Now T3 and T4 being tyrosine derivative, and tyrosine being an aromatic amino acid, is hydrophobic in nature. So being hydrophobic, it can easily cross the plasma membrane, but the blood through which it was supposed to move to its site of action is hydrophilic in nature. So since it is hydrophilic, the blood will prohibit or inhibit the movement of T3 and T4. If this is so, then how will the T3 and T4 reaches to its site of action? For knowing that, stay tuned. And also one more thing I would love to say, that T3 and T4 both are thyroid hormones, but T3 is a biologically active molecule, biologically functional molecule as compared to the T4. But do you know one thing? The T4 reaches its site of action at a larger amount as compared to T3. But the cell required T3 because it is a biologically active molecule. Now what will happen? That even if T4 reaches in higher proportion as compared to T3 at its site of action, how does the metabolic activities are maintained by T3 and T4? For knowing that, stay tuned, and I promise you there are much more interesting facts and features of this transport system which you are going to learn in this discussion. For that, stay tuned and hang on till the end of this video. Okay, since we have already understood and analyzed the biosynthetic process via which the thyroid hormones, that is triiodothyronine and thyroxine, are biosynthesized in the follicular cells of the thyroid gland, now it's very important that we talk about the transportation of the same. Now, before moving on to the transportation process, one thing I would like to say, as already stated earlier, that T3 and T4, that is the thyroid hormones, are essentially tyrosine derivative. Yes, we have seen that the iodine molecule were attached to the tyrosine residue. So initially or eventually it becomes tyrosine derivative. And being a tyrosine derivative, where we know that tyrosine is an aromatic amino acid and all the aromatic compounds are hydrophobic in nature, so essentially this T3 and T4 also becomes hydrophobic in nature. Now being hydrophobic in nature, it can easily cross the plasma membrane, but crossing the plasma membrane of the blood capillaries, it stays still. It cannot further perform any sort of movement. Why? Because the blood which is flowing through the blood capillaries is hydrophilic in nature, and any hydrophilic solvent won't allow the movement of hydrophobic molecules. Therefore, this T3 and T4, after entering into the bloodstream, it stays still. Now, staying still will not serve the purpose. It needs to move, and it needs to move to its target site so that it can level out the metabolic rate of that particular site. And for that, it needs to move. But in the blood, it is motionless. So what is to be done? Here comes certain proteins which are known as plasma proteins, which are suspended in the blood plasma, which helps in the transportation of this T3 and T4. Now, some of the blood plasma proteins which helps in the transportation process are thyroxine binding globulin, thyroxine binding prealbumin, and so on. These proteins help bind with this T3 and T4 suspended in the blood capillaries and thereby help in the transportation of the same to its target site. Having understood it, one more thing we need to understand, and that is T3 is biologically more active, more responsive as compared to T4. That is, if suppose there is a cell that has got lower rate of metabolism, then ideally it would expect T3 to come in for the help and thereby enhance the metabolic rate. But the twist comes here when we will know that it is T4 which has got higher affinity for binding to these transport proteins. That means it is T4 which would be transported in a higher proportion to the target site as compared to T3, but the cell expected T3 to come in higher proportion. Now if this is the scenario, what will happen? I would say, now when T4 will be transported in higher proportion to a target cell, and if the target cell has exhausted the reserve of T3 out there, then now it's turn for the cell to somehow utilize the T4, and for that matter there is an enzyme in the cytosol of the target cell. In fact, there is an enzyme in each and every cell of the living system known as deiodinase. The deiodinase enzyme present in the cytosol of every cell help converting the T4 into T3 by removing one of the iodine residue, preferably from the fifth position of the second aromatic ring of the tyrosine, like in the image shown here. Now we have got T3 from T4. Now T3 can serve the purpose of heightening up the metabolic rate of that particular site. So what we have learned here? We have learned that affinity of T4 towards the plasma proteins are more than T3. T3 is biologically active molecule. Now one important thing you need to understand is T3 and T4 enters its site of action in free form. Yes. Now once the transport protein help transporting the T3 and T4 into its site of action, it must be detached from its transport protein, and it is only in the free form that this T3 and T4 would easily cross the plasma membrane and enter into its site of action. Now the thyroid hormone, in order to serve its purpose, must bind with a receptor, and the receptor for the thyroid hormones is located within the nucleus. Now let's see that how the interaction between the ligand, that is the thyroid hormone, with its receptor help in increasing the metabolic rate of the particular system. Now T3 entered into the nucleus via this nuclear pore. Now let's look at the thyroid receptor. This thyroid receptor, which complexes with other receptor which is known as the retinoid X receptor, forms a heterodimeric complex, and this heterodimeric complex binds with a certain repetitive sequence within the DNA known as the hormone response element. Now one thing about the thyroid receptor we need to understand, and that is the thyroid receptor is not just a mere receptor, it is also a transcription factor. Now what is a transcription factor? Transcription factors are certain proteins which help regulate the transcription rate of genes to which it is attached. That is, when this thyroid receptor forming a complex with the retinoid X receptor binds to the hormone response element without the hormone being attached to this particular receptor, then it recruits certain co-repressor proteins which inhibits the transcription of the genes to which it is attached. But once the T3 is associated or binded to this thyroid receptor, it undergoes a conformational change. Because of the conformational change, these co-repressor proteins which was inhibiting the transcription rate of the genes to which this thyroid receptor is attached, these co-repressor proteins are dissociated, and because these co-repressor proteins are dissociated on binding of T3 to its receptor, now that is the thyroid receptor will recruit co-activator proteins. Now these co-activator proteins will help in increasing or enhancing the transcription rate of the genes that it is attached to. Thereby it will help in the translation of certain proteins which are very essential to increase or enhance the metabolic rate of the system. Now talking about this hormone response element, basically it has got two consensus sequence, and each consensus sequence is known as half site. Now this consensus sequence is also known as the hexameric half site because this consensus sequence is made up of 6 base pairs. To the first hexameric half site, the thyroid hormone receptor binds like this, And to the second hexameric half site, the retinoid X receptor binds in this way. Now, it is only when the thyroid hormone complexes with the retinoid X receptor, then it can perform the function of a transcription factor, but if not, then it cannot function as a transcription factor. So it is very much essential that this thyroid hormone receptor complexes with the retinoid X receptor, and in unbinded form with the thyroid hormone, it recruits co-repressor proteins which inhibits the transcription of certain genes to which it is attached to. But as the T3 binds with the thyroid receptor, these co-repressor proteins are replaced by co-activator protein. Now, as co-activator protein comes in and the thyroid hormone also joins in, now this transcription factor, which is the thyroid receptor, will enhance the transcription rate of certain proteins who will help in the enhancement of the metabolic rate of the system. Hope you have understood that how the thyroid hormone binding to the thyroid receptor helps removing the co-repressor protein and recruiting the co-activator protein, thereby helping in the enhancement of the transcription of certain genes that will lead eventually to the formation of certain proteins, and which will help in enhancing the metabolic rate, thereby the metabolism of that particular system would be leveled up with the help of these thyroid hormones. Hope you have understood this. So, having understood about the transportation process of the thyroid hormones, we now need to understand that what is the need or what is the function of the thyroid hormones. We essentially know that thyroid hormones help in elevating the fallen down metabolism of the living system. But why? At the first place, the metabolism falls down. Now, metabolism falls down because there is no sufficient energy to sustain the metabolic activities of the living system. And for energy, we require respiration. For respiration, we require oxygen. So, the thyroid hormone's first function would be provide the living system with oxygen. And how will it do it? First, it will increase the lungs capacity to intake oxygen. Second, it will increase the cardiac output, because by increasing the cardiac output, it will help different cells who are deficient of oxygen to receive oxygenated blood, thereby taking the oxygen for sustaining various metabolic processes, for example, glycolysis, glycogenolysis, lipolysis. That is all the different metabolic processes that can help the cell harness energy and thereby utilize the same energy for the different metabolic activities. Not only this, but also the thyroid hormones with the help of growth hormones help in maintaining the muscular growth, the bone growth of the children. And not only that, the thyroid hormone also help in the development of the central nervous system of the children. So in this way, the thyroid hormone either alone or in combination or with the help of other hormones help in the overall growth and development of the entire system. Hope you have understood this. With this, let us wrap up the video. Thank you very much for your patience, and if you have liked this content, don't forget to like and please subscribe the channel.